And I'm glad that you brought that up, Erica, because there are the more privileged in the society that you were talking about who are able to afford these things more, not just college, but in general are hurt a little less by the current recession that we live in, which is the next thing that I want to go into talking about. Some of you may remember the Occupy movement. I believe early 2011, late 2011. There were actually a ton of causes that were being argued, but one of them was this financial inequality, the financial gap between the most wealthy and the least wealthy. So we do have a little video that kind of explains the financial gap between the 99% versus the 1%, which was one of the rallying cries of the Occupy movement. So let's take a look at that video to kind of get an explanation of what we're talking about.
The richest 1% of the U.S. population, they own a third of U.S. net worth. And there are some really rich people in the U.S. today. In fact, there are now over 3.1 million millionaires. But these are not the richest of all. The U.S. has over 400 billionaires, more than any other country in the world. But haven't the rich lost out as well as the poor in the economic crash? When the economy tanked, everyone suffered. But some things are doing very well. Sales of luxury cars are up. Big luxury brands have reported their best sales figures in years, and America's top executives are paying themselves very well too. It is down, but still pretty good. $4.9 million each in the latest figures. And a Washington Post investigation found the following. Since the 1970s, median pay for executives at the nation's largest companies has more than quadrupled, even after adjusting for inflation, according to researchers. Over the same period, pay for a typical non-supervisory worker has dropped more than 10%.
So that gives you a bit of a snapshot of the financial gap that I'm talking about, that currently the top 1% of earners in the United States own about 40% of the nation's wealth, as he was talking about there. So the first question is, do you think that this is fair? Do you think that this works in the benefit of the public? There's the argument that these people are the job creators, and the money is going to trickle down over time because they'll be, hiring more people. And if you don't think that it's just, if you don't think that it's going to benefit society, do you think government should get involved? How do you think we should change it? And what are your ideas for whether or not this is just, and if not, how to go about changing it for the future?
Well, at least I think that we've kind of seen this whole trickle-down effect idea kind of play out before our eyes in the last 20 years or so. And we're seeing now kind of the results of it in the recession, of the fact that now we kind of have this bubble that we've hit because of it, that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And there is no trickle-down effect, at least that I'm seeing, in my opinion. And therefore, I don't think that the wealth really trickles down. These people who are the top CEOs, are continuing to pay themselves more, and like we saw on that graph, the middle income is staying like this, and the wealthy are going like this. And so I don't think this quote trickle down effect is really producing anything.
So Claire, you're arguing kind of that it's not so much fair. Zach, you said earlier, you were asking people in generally their American dream was success, which I assume includes affluence and includes being especially wealthy. So these people, these 1% of people, they've achieved their American dream if they go by that same standard of wanting success. So I'll bring the question to you. Do you think it's fair? Should these people be able to achieve that sort of American dream, even if it means maybe that the 99% are suffering more?
Well, I think that the 1% are living their American dream. To say that they're the 1% in America holding most of the nation's wealth, but I think when they hear the word recession, they kind of they get a little bit afraid, and then they end up holding on to their money, and that's kind of what Claire was talking about with the trickle down has kind of disappeared.
It's kind of a vicious cycle. The recession causes people to hang on to their money, which causes more of a recession for more people.
Correct.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Just keeps going.
I think that I kind of, in a way, maybe disagree with what Claire was saying, because Claire, you brought up the fact that the reason why possibly that we're having this recession right now is that our country has been employing these policies of trickle-down economics, and that's what's causing inequality, and that's what's not working. But I think you could also argue that there has been arguably an enormous amount of government involvement in economics. And so in that sense, it hasn't been trickle-down economics. That's not what's happening because there's been so much government interference. Maybe we're not living in a true laissez-faire economic system, and maybe if we were, it would be better.
And Erica, thank you for sharing that. You've kind of countered these two, and I'm sure that Foster has a third and more radical opinion. He's over at the mic. Foster, what do you have to say?
I'd like to agree with what Zach was saying. And I think, what are you going to do? Because a bunch of people are like way richer than you. What are you going to do? Just tax the heck out of them and tax their businesses? Then no one's going to want to do business in America because America will just be like communist Europe. We don't want any of these socialistic policies trying to tell our business how to run. And I think if, people like Obama and the Occupy movement want to just tax businesses and rich people a bunch, then that is really un-American, and that will just make us more like Europe. And I think we don't want to be like Europe, and that's why we're here. So,
I think it's funny that you said un-American, Foster. You said un-American in there because, and I tend to agree with you that the part of the American dream is that once you get your wealth, you get to hang on to it. So, how do you guys think that relates, to the American dream?